After committing a murder, many perpetrators would typically aim to distance themselves as much as they can from the crime scene. However, some individuals take a chillingly different approach by remaining in plain sight, often pretending to cooperate with law enforcement officers, or, shockingly, even reporting the incident themselves. Guys, join us today as we look into 3 deeply unsettling cases where the killer became the first responder at the crime scene. With that said, let's get started. Merrick Kiko.
No, I know what happened. I know the people they involved.
This young man walked up to a murder scene drunk, claiming to know exactly what had happened, but what the police later discovered about him left them in shock. You see, on July 25, 2022, Adrian Ellingford was found dead in his house in Chelmsford, England. He had 2 stab wounds on his body. However, when investigators arrived at the scene, they were interrupted by a man wearing a white shirt. This man was later identified as Merrick Kiko. Merrick had been drinking alcohol and had an open bottle of brandy with him. He offered to help with the investigation, but his proposal didn't seem very sincere. When the investigators asked him basic details like his name and how he was connected to the situation, he got defensive and said, "I won't tell you my name. It doesn't matter because I know what happened, and you can figure it out without my help."
What's your name?
I'm not gonna tell you my name. I don't give a
Merrick claimed to know how it happened, but his reluctance to provide simple identification or a coherent account raised suspicions. His subsequent statements, characterized by vagueness and arrogance, did little to support his credibility. Merrick later gave an obscure version of the incident, saying, "Some guy came here, and I don't know what happened. You might think it's me, but there's no proof." The police remained unconvinced, and Merrick's tactics changed. He taunted the officers, asserting, "I know what happened, and this city belongs to me." However, his actions at the victim's residence, combined with his reckless behavior and intoxication, ultimately led to his arrest. In a surprising turn of events, it was revealed that Adrian had been involved in an affair with Merrick's former partner, Stephanie Bream. This affair had deeply consumed Merrick, leading to obsession after his separation from Stephanie in May of the same year. Finding Adrian and Stephanie together in bed triggered Merrick's violent outburst, which made him stab Adrian to death. In February 2023, Merrick was unanimously found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. This case serves as a stark reminder that going to a crime scene, especially under the influence of alcohol, is not advised and can lead to dire consequences. Angera Mchu. This footage may seem like ordinary footage of a man leaving a house, but the chilling story behind his motive will leave you in shock. In July 2014, local law enforcement responded to a distress call at 11:20 a.m. concerning the residence of Harriet and Rupert Anderson, an elderly couple living in Des Moines, Iowa.
Help.
Okay, they're on their way there now, okay?
And I'm on the floor, and my husband's been hit in the head, and I've been beat on the head.
Don't hang up, okay? Don't hang up, Harriet.
My head hurts. I'm laying in the hallway.
When investigators arrived, they found nothing out of the ordinary outside the house. However, as they entered the house, they made a disturbing discovery. The scene was indeed horrifying, as conveyed by Harriet's distressed call for help. The elderly couple lay on the floor, having suffered severe blunt force trauma to their heads. There was blood everywhere. Tragically, Rupert succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead at the hospital. Despite the grim situation, the investigators couldn't help but notice peculiar details in the squad car's dashcam footage. A young man loitered near the door, but went unnoticed by the officers and camera crew who entered the residence without questioning him. Astonishingly, this individual left the scene without being questioned by the police, leaving with the victim's blood on his clothes. Fortunately, the officers accompanying the camera crew from the TV show Cops captured a clear image of this stranger. The recorded footage helped in identifying the suspect as 19-year-old Angera Mchu, who was later taken in for questioning on the same night. During his time in the interrogation room, Angera provided a confusing speech that left more questions than answers. His words hinted at a possible state of psychosis or rehearsed excuses. Another perspective on Angera's behavior emerged from the testimony of his mother, an Ethiopian immigrant named Nanui Padiat. Padiat explained that her son had consumed alcohol before the incident, which may have contributed to his unusual conduct. Padiat also mentioned that Angera had gone for a walk after drinking. However, his motive for his actions remained unknown, and he denied any knowledge of or interaction with the Andersons. Despite Angera's alibi claiming that he spent the day practicing backflips at the park and never visited the Anderson residence, the investigators had concrete evidence to the contrary. They had multiple angles of footage placing him at the crime scene. Angera's inconsistent statements raised doubts about his involvement in the incident. The authorities pressed him for the truth, but he continued to evade providing a clear account of events. Nevertheless, the pivotal dashcam footage ultimately led to his conviction for first-degree murder in January 2016, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Cherry Kinney.
8-9 years.
Oh, yeah.
My kids call him Uncle. He's supposed to go to the Bahamas with us and all. I'm trying not to freak out. I'm sorry. I can't not see him, man. I'm not supposed to see him.
Anyone will feel sorry to see a man cry like this, but the chilling discovery that unfolded after will leave you in shock. You see, in May 2017, Ohio law enforcement received a 911 call from Cherry Kinney, a resident of Bel Air. She reported a distressing incident involving her husband, David Kinney, and their close friend, Brad McGarry. Cherry conveyed two critical pieces of information. 1. Brad is her husband's longtime friend. 2. They found Brad dead with a gunshot wound to his head at his own home. David Kinney, visibly upset, had a strong friendship with the victim. According to David, he stumbled upon the gruesome scene as he was about to deliver a grass trimmer to Brad. The narrative shared by David, Cherry, and their daughter Elizabeth painted a chaotic picture inside Brad's home. However, law enforcement began to notice some suspicious elements in the case. Despite signs of a robbery, no valuable items appeared to be missing, leading them to suspect that the robbery may have been staged. Additionally, there was no firearm found on the premises, which raised questions about the circumstances of the gunshot wound. To build a timeline of events, investigators interviewed friends and family of the victim. A shocking revelation came from Brad's cousin, who disclosed that Brad and David had been involved in a romantic relationship for years, a fact previously unknown to many, including Cherry. This newfound information shifted the focus onto David as a potential suspect. Further examination of David's phone revealed deleted messages confirming the romantic relationship between David and Brad. Most incriminating was the fact that David's phone was present at Brad's house during the time of the murder. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's doorbell camera showed David driving to Brad's place in his wife's car hours before returning a few hours later with his family in his own car. During questioning, David initially denied his involvement, but later broke down emotionally. He tried to deflect blame onto a supposed third romantic partner of Brad's, but this story didn't align with the evidence or his motives. The detective employed a strategy of building trust with David, hoping he would confess voluntarily. However, David's story continued to unravel, and the truth emerged. Brad and David had an argument that escalated because Brad had asked David to divorce his wife. David refused, resulting in a physical fight. David claimed that Brad pulled out a gun, but he managed to take it from him, ultimately leading to the tragic outcome. In court, David Kinney pled not guilty, but he was ultimately convicted of the aggravated murder of Brad McGarry in February 2018. His attempt to cover up the crime did not hold up against the evidence presented during the trial. All right, guys, that wraps up our video for today. Please do well to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more.